Hello and welcome back. Okay, so when you actually create your bucket and upload objects to it or delete objects from it or configure replication, or if a lifecycle rule gets initiated, these are what are called events. These are events that are happening on your S3 bucket. And sometimes you need to get notified when specific events happen in your S3 bucket. Like for instance, if an application goes ahead and deletes a bunch of archive log files, you probably want a record somewhere to say that that happened. So that's where a really cool feature of the S3 service event notification comes into play. Let's take a look at how this works in this video. So event notification is basically a feature to receive notifications when certain events happen in your S3 bucket. So here's our S3 bucket. You would configure what's known as an event notification configuration feature. Now this is a feature that's native to the S3 service. So one of the features that you can use and configure. And what happens here is you can set up event notifications for various types of events that happen in your S3 bucket. That configuration can comprise of a series of different activities or actions that happen within the S3 bucket. For example, when you create an object, you can configure a notification to be triggered when you have an S3 object created event takes place for any kind of object creation action, or for things like put, post, copy, complete, multi-part upload, etc. Another event that could happen is when you remove an object. So for instance, when you delete an object, or if you've got versioning enabled, when you have the delete marker created for your object in the S3 bucket. Object restore when you're restoring from Glacier. Or for instance, an S3 replication event. So where you've missed the replication threshold, or it's a failed replication, or the replication happened after the threshold that you've specified. Another one is lifecycle expiration. So for instance, if because of a lifecycle expiration rule, we've got a delete taken place or a delete marker being created. Also intelligent tiering. So when you transfer objects from the frequently accessed storage class to the infrequently accessed storage class because you haven't accessed the object for 30 days, that's an event. So all of these different events can be used to trigger a notification from your Amazon S3 bucket. And these notifications can either be triggered because a user did something on your S3 bucket, or an application called a particular API on your S3 bucket. Right? When that happens, that triggers the actual event notification service based on whatever the configuration is in your configuration for that event notification service. So that gets triggered, and then these events need to be delivered somewhere. Now you currently have three main key services that you could deliver the events to. There's actually a fourth one, I'll come on to that in a second, but the top three are your Lambda functions, Amazon SNS topic, and Amazon SQS queues. Now we'll be talking about these services in our other videos, but essentially what happens is you can send a notification to a Lambda function, which can provide compute services to do something with that notification, react to that notification in some way. You can send a notification to an SNS topic, which could send out a notification as an email, or perhaps it could send a notification to an application. You can send it to an SQS queue, which is a message queuing system that allows you to store messages in a queue that can then be retrieved and acted upon by other services when you're building a microservices architecture and a decoupled solution, a decoupled architectural solution. So you've got these three main destination points basically that you can send your notifications to when any of those events happen. Now, the thing to bear in mind is when you're actually setting this up, these destinations need to be able to accept messages from your Amazon S3 bucket, and that's where permissions come into play. So you would need to create resource-based policies within these services so that they are going to accept any notifications from the S3 bucket. So for instance, you would set up something called a Lambda resource policy, and that will allow you to specify the S3 bucket that can invoke that Lambda function. You would set up an SNS access policy that will allow the topic to be able to accept messages from an S3 bucket. You could set up an SQS access policy that will allow you to specify which S3 bucket is allowed to write messages to the queue. Now, in addition to these destinations, you can also send your event notifications to another service called the Amazon Event Bridge service. Now, the Amazon Event Bridge service is actually a service where you define rules to take some action when an event occurs. So in this case, the Amazon S3 obviously triggers an event notification that can be passed on to EventBridge to then send on that event to some other service. As well as the existing services, it can also send it to things like Kinesis or DynamoDB or some other service that are there. So far more services are available to you through the EventBridge service. You can even send it to things like an HTTP endpoint, for instance, to act upon that event that took place on your S3 bucket. Now, interestingly, when it comes to EventBridge, Amazon S3 doesn't require you any additional permissions to deliver the events to EventBridge, so that's just something to bear in mind. But other than that, when it comes to any of these other services, you do have to create these resource-based policies. By default, really, you should consider using EventBridge because it gives you access to a whole host of other services. But obviously, if you've got a specific use case to send an event notification to an SNS topic, for instance, then by all means, you can do that as well. Let's take a look at a sample SNS access policy to take a look at how that works, because when it comes to any of these services, your policy is going to determine whether that event gets forwarded or not. Okay, so here's an example of an access policy, and you've got this available to you in our resources section of this video or in the description box below. Essentially, what we have is a standard JSON policy. You've got the effect to allow, the principal being the Amazon S3 service. The action is SNS to publish. So you want to publish a message to what? To the resource, which is an SNS topic. An SNS topic is a logical access point that messages are published to when you want to work with the Amazon SNS service. So this topic basically can be thought of as a simple access point that you send your messages to, and then subscribers to that topic will receive those messages. Okay, so if you want to send a notification, if someone deletes a file or an object from an S3 bucket, it goes to an SNS topic. A subscriber, like an email address of a particular administrator, will be subscribing to that topic, and once that message hits the topic, it will be forwarded on to the email address of that administrator. Now, we're allowing the publishing of messages to that SNS topic based on the condition that the source of that publication comes from a particular Amazon S3 bucket, and that's why you put in the ARN name of the S3 bucket in question. And then obviously there's also from the source account, which could be a different account, or it could be the same account as where you have the SNS service. Okay, so that's an example of an access policy. Next, let's jump on into the AWS Management Console and actually set one of this up so you can see it in action and build on some practical experience. Okay, so here we are on my AWS Management Console. So we're going to be doing a couple of things. We're going to create an SNS topic. Now we'll take a look at SNS topics in one of our upcoming videos in a lot more detail, but I just want to show you very briefly how SNS works. And we're going to create an S3 bucket and upload an object to an S3 bucket, configure it for event notification, and see how that sends an event to our SNS topic, and then subsequently to an email address to alert us that something happened to our S3 bucket. So we'll start off by going into Amazon SNS. I'm going to go ahead and create a new SNS topic. Remember, SNS topics are logical access points that you use to basically distribute and send out notifications to subscribers to that topic, then get those notifications. It could be a human subscriber, it could be a non-human application subscriber. So we'll create a topic. So you need to click Topics, click Create Topic. We're creating a standard topic, and I'll give this a name. Okay, we'll call this one S3 Event Alerts. Okay, and we'll just put the same in the display name as well. And then we'll scroll a little bit further down and click Create Topic. So this creates the topic. This is the base topic. This is the topic that we're going to send our messages to. That's the ARN of the topic, right? Let's go ahead and open up Amazon S3. So I'm going to go ahead and create a bucket. So let's call this bucket a general purpose bucket. We're going to call this Ritual Roast S3 Events, okay, just so that we know what it is, and leave everything else as it is. None of that is required. Click Create Bucket. Okay, so that creates the bucket for us. Next, we're going to go into the bucket. So that's the Ritual Roast S3 Events, and we're going to go into Properties. And in Properties, we're going to go down and go into Event Notifications. So you've got two options. You've got Event Notifications where you can set up your events to go to, Lambda, SNS, or SQS, or you've got EventBridge capability where you can send every event that takes place on your S3 bucket to EventBridge, and then do something in EventBridge to react to those notifications. So that's currently by default turned off. So you can turn that on and then start working in EventBridge. For the purposes of this lab, we're going to create an event notification to SNS. So click on Create Event Notification, and then we'll give this a name. So S3 put alerts, something like that. Okay, and you can actually define where that event took place, maybe in a subfolder, or if it's a particular file type that you want to be alerted on. And then you've got the different event types as we discussed in the slides. Okay, so we're just going to quickly make this easy. I'm going to say all object create events. Okay, so that's going to be put, post, copy, multi-part, upload, complete. Scroll all the way to the bottom. And then you need to choose your destination. So your destination is going to be an SNS topic, and then we'll choose the SNS topic that I just created moments ago, which is the S3 event alerts. Now, if I click Save Changes, I'm going to get an error, and it's going to say unable to validate the following destination configuration. And that's because, and I hope you worked this one out, I missed putting in the access policy. So let's go back to our S3 events. Okay. There is our access policy, and currently it's a default access policy that doesn't allow that particular bucket to talk to Amazon SNS topic, to this specific topic. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click Edit. And what we need to do is go into access policy, and we're going to change this access policy. So just copy all of that existing policy, get rid of that, and then obviously use the policy that I've provided you, the sample policy, which is that over there. So I'm just going to copy that and paste that in the window. Okay, so that's in there, and you'll need to make changes to this policy. So obviously we are allowing the publication of messages from S3. You need to supply the SNS topic ARN. So if you go back to the SNS topic itself, I'll just copy that ARN. That's my SNS topic ARN, and that's going to go in there. And then scroll down a little bit further. The condition statement needs to be met. So where is that publication coming from? It's coming from my S3 bucket, which is this one over here. So let's just open that up as well in another tab very quickly. And I want to just show you this bucket and go into properties. And in the properties, I can grab the resource name, the Amazon resource name of the bucket. Again, you want to just replace that ARN with your bucket ARN. Okay, and then you want the bucket owner ID. So the ID is obviously just provided up here. We just copy that, just paste that in there in the bucket owner ID. Okay, so now if we click Save Changes, right, so that's our policy change for our SNS topic. If we now go back to our event notification and attempt to save changes again, you should find that we've successfully created the event notification S3 put alerts. Okay, so all of that is in place. The final thing that we need to do in Amazon SNS is to actually create a subscriber to this topic. Because currently there are no subscribers to this topic, so I'll create a subscription. So I'm back in the SNS topic S3 events alerts, click create subscription, and we'll go ahead and click email and provide an email address as the endpoint. So I'm just going to type in my email address there. Okay, so that's my email address provided, and then I'll just click create subscription, and that creates a subscription to my email address. Now, when you create an email subscription with Amazon SNS, you have to confirm that subscription. So you got to log into your email account and confirm the subscription. Let me just do that very quickly. Okay, so it looks like this, and so I'll click confirm subscription, and this is what it looks like when the subscription is confirmed. Okay, so let's get out of this and let's close that as well. And then let's go back to Amazon S3 and let's go into objects. And so we're going to test this out. We're going to upload an object to Amazon S3 to this particular bucket, which is the Richard Rose S3 events bucket. So let's go ahead and click upload. And then what I'll do is I'll drop a file in there. Okay, so here is a object that I want to upload. That's the copy of my example policy, just for testing purposes, and then I'm going to click upload. So I'm uploading this object to Amazon S3 to this bucket that has been configured with S3 notification, and you heard the ping in the background, and that means the notification came through, and here it is. Okay, so this is my notification. It says object created put So it tells you that it's a put event, that it has created an object, and it is following the configuration in my S3 put alerts. And based on that, it is going to send me an email to alert me of this fact. So it also tells me the name of the object that was uploaded, its size, and so on. So a lot of information there that I can then use as part of my alert mechanism. Okay, so that pretty much showcases how you configure Amazon S3 notification services. That brings us to the end of this video. I'll see you folks in the next. Thank you.